Well, everyone's here, so I'd like to call this meeting to order, December 4th at 5:03 p.m. Public participation. Did we get anything beforehand, Ian? I think Ian's frozen, but I didn't. We didn't get anything else in. Oh,
Yeah, it says she's connecting to audio. Here she is.
Sorry, I'm having a little computer. I'm on my phone, so we're good.
that's okay. You didn't have anything come in, Ian, did you, for public participation?
We did not.
Number three, policy discussion. Joe,
Okay,
you have something you'd want to start with or share?
can you,
I think I gave you permission already.
even better. Yes, you did. Okay. These ones will be kind of short and sweet, just because we don't have a heck of a lot that's different, but I just wanted to, represent the two policies that we talked about last time. I highlighted, the changes that we discussed and made. Albeit they're very short, but we'll start with the first one. So this was the pool abatement policy that we had talked about. And I apologize for not sending this out to you earlier. I should have. But literally, from the last time we spoke, we took your notes and made some changes to this. The two of them being highlighted here. So we included language that said that abatements will be considered for sewer charges only. And then we discussed a time period of when the abatements needed to be filled by, and we included the language of 120 days that the board had recommended. Outside of that, this document is verbatim for what you last saw.
Did anyone have any questions on this document? Or
I mean,
comments?
just reading through those first two paragraphs, it sounds like both of them should be split into two sentences each. I don't want to get in the weeds, but
Which
at the word only, like that should either be a semicolon or it should be a period and a capital O in the first one.
these two.
Yeah, and then same in the paragraph above where it says initial fill, it should be either a semicolon or a period and then a capital.
Any other comments outside of that? If not, I guess we would respectfully ask a vote in favor to approve this, and then we'll remove the watermark. And then this will be something that we'll hand out to anybody seeking information. We'll probably post it online so that people have it readily available to them.
There's no other comments. The chair will entertain a motion to pass this pool abatement policy.
I'd like to just read through the rest of it. I know we read it last time, but before we take a vote.
Sure, go ahead.
I think there's also a missing period after the word pool on the third paragraph there, end of the third paragraph.
You're good.
All right, Elena passed the alertness test.
I'm a stickler for grammar and such.
We did
Yeah,
a
that's
gentleman on
great.
the capital planning committee that he was the son of two English teachers. He's awesome. That's fun. That's
I think since you have periods on all the others, on the account information at the very end of that, there should probably be one there too. All right, I'm done with that page. I don't know if everybody is.
This should just be, this will,
That's it.
it'll end up being the footer of it. I'll just include the date, the last time it was amended.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay,
I'll second it.
seconded by Shane, all in favor? Aye. Motion
Aye.
passes 3-0. Want to go to the water and sewer, Joe, next?
Yeah, hang on one second.
You get them.
Can everybody see this one, water and sewer dispute procedures? I'll come back to this so you can take a read through it, before we, make any votes or anything like that, but much like the other one, we included, this language here. In the event of extenuating circumstances, the property owner can seek an additional abatement during the 10-year period described. The property owner can submit a written petition to the advisory board of public works for consideration. For review to proceed, an affirmative vote from the advisory board of public works will be required. Outside of that, another language change that was suggested last time, all water passing through the meter is the responsibility of the property owner. The water charges applicable at the time of billing will be charged to the property owner, whether the water has been used, wasted, lost through leakage, broken pipes, and faulty fixtures, etc. Any relief that's to be considered will be for sewer charges only. So that was the addition that we added to this last sentence. And then, pretty similar to what we did on the last document, we talked about a time period. We added the language that abatements will not be considered for periods of more than 2 billing cycles. I'll go back up to the first page, but the rest of this is exactly the same. And then again, in the footer, I'll just include the date of whenever the vote is that puts this into practice.
Is this eligibility? This is exactly the same as the one on the pools.
Essentially, yeah, a lot of the languages, whatever we could make, for consistency's sake, apply to both, applies to both. Yep,
Because it just seems like it should be.
yeah, it is.
No reason for an account in good standing to be defined any differently.
No, it would just make it harder to manage if we had 2 different sets to.
Right. So I have that same comment, then the period at the end after denial of application. I think on number 5 and or should have a slash between it. And on number 7, you need a close parentheses at the end. On number 9 there, I don't think water should be capitalized. in the highlighted paragraph there, can you put after the words property owner in the first line?
Hmm.
I would make that a semicolon or again, just a period and a. Yeah. So question on the malfunctioning irrigation systems. I mean, if your irrigation system has a leak and that water didn't enter the sewer system and you have repair receipts, aren't we saying that is eligible or no? Or you mean malfunctioning like they're running when they, at a time when they shouldn't be running?
Yeah, exactly. So typically, where they're exposed to the elements of things like that, malfunctioning is in the running when they're not supposed to be, and or what this is really covering is a system that might be in the state of bad repair.
Yeah, okay.
So typically we don't give a abatement for outside water use. It's kind of a luxury item. You need to stay on top of it.
Okay.
So we have, don't get me wrong, we've given out a few, but usually they're pretty unbelievable circumstances. You know what I mean? We don't usually, we do it for domestic. We're trying to give some relief to help someone, not necessarily just say, oh, it's okay. You had an outside leak. You know what I mean?
Okay. Just a minor technicality. I think, was it in the other one where we referred to the location where you'd fill out the form as the, I don't know, we use different terminology instead of Department of Public Works in Town Hall. It said like Water Administration Office or something. I don't know. That might have been earlier on in this one, or it might have been in the other one.
No, it's in the other one. That's a good call. Hang on one second.
The town of Wakefield, DPW with the address, is that the one?
No, I
Yeah.
think it said like water.
Sorry, I
Yeah, it must have been in the other one.
think it is.
Oh, unless it's in that, maybe it's in that note at the bottom.
I get the other one up in front of me.
No.
Hang on one second.
Okay.
So we weren't looking for it. We find it in 2 seconds. Oh, here it is right here.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah, so just Public Works Administration Office is fine.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So, okay. This is what we just changed this one. So it matches this one.
Oh, I just realized I'm muted. Um, number, where is it? Number 2.
Yeah.
Another one that's kind of a run-on sentence should be like 3 different sentences. The Department of Public Works will perform an initial review of the application for completeness, period. If the application is complete. And then after performed, that should be a separate sentence too.
I think we need some periods after the A, B, and C too, right? We have them on the other ones. Looks like D and E have periods, but yeah.
Yeah, or just take them off all of them, I guess, if it's either way.
Is everybody good up to 3? I'll keep scrolling down.
Yep, I'm good on that page. I think where it says all costs will be borne, I think that borne is BORNE. I think. Not 100% sure on that. At the bottom of end of number 4.
Hmm.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I've got the peanut gallery over here telling me they think I'm incorrect, but I think that's correct.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, transported or transmitted by, that's how you use born. Okay. Okay, that, I don't have any other comments.
We lose Chris?
Oh,
Oh, I didn't even notice because the screen's got the,
oh yeah, I guess we did.
All right. So I guess while we're waiting for him, if you guys want, we can kind of touch on, there's one more piece we have for you tonight. Oh, here he is. Maybe I'll just,
Here he comes.
he ran to go get the dictionary so he could look up how to use born.
I'm back.
Okay. I think we just left it off. We corrected a couple of grammatical things. And we're just wondering if you had any additional comments to any of this.
I do not. Sorry, I think I lost internet at my house or something. I'm not really sure what's going on.
Hmm,
All right, so make a motion to approve.
If the board would choose so, that would be appreciated, yes.
all right, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, so the last piece we have for today is more something to kind of talk through. And then we will leave it with you folks and you can, think about it a little bit, and then probably the next time we get together, we'll look to, take more comments and make changes should we need it. And then at that point, we're kind of through the low-hanging fruit, and we're going to get into some of the more irrigation-based stuff, which will be a little bit more detailed and involved. We're trying to take care of all the, relatively quick ones first if we can. Okay. So can everybody see this old PDF that I have up here, water theft policy?
Yes.
Okay, so this is something that has not been touched or looked at, updated, what have you, in about 20 years. Actually, it says at the bottom, May 6th in 2004, the advisory board last changed this and made the recommendation to the board of selectmen at that time. So it's due for an overhaul. I know that Mass General Law, since this came into place, has changed. So it's different now than when this was put together, and I don't think this was ever kept up with the times. I won't go through the whole thing, but basically, this was something that was put together. If there was an instance where someone was averred to be stealing water, I can think of in the whole time I've been here and I've been around close enough to kind of know what's going on. I don't know if this, in my time, this has never come up. I could think of maybe an instance or two where this has before. We don't see it all the time, but if we're going to go through all the rest of our policies and try to put things down to be more transparent, this just naturally, obviously needed to be one of the boxes that we checked as we were moving through things. The big thing for me that was kind of different was you saw that, for an instance where someone, it was proven that someone had indeed stolen water. They actually split it between residential and commercial occupancies, which I thought was interesting. I know that in the late 90s, there was some talk and Public Works looked at whether or not it would make sense to split the rate. So you'd have a residential rate and a commercial rate. I think obviously it was ultimately decided not to do that. I guess just a little interesting nugget in here. And it's essentially what this says is, for someone that is caught or, it's proven to be that, they found to be stealing water, there's a fine, there's a punitive fine as a result of it. And then it just states essentially that, back charges or cost or whatever it takes to correct the issue will ultimately be charged off to the party or the account to be made whole. So with that being said, we kind of took a look at this for, a general lane to try to operate in the state as consistent as we could, and then compared it with some of the things we see every day and then the updated law that I told you about, and we threw together a draft here. What this is essentially doing is just kind of laying out the same thing. Any definitions that we could define, and then some things for the board to think about as far as, if we were to change the fine structure from what's presently in place, what is that going to look like? What do we feel that needs to be? It might need to be to recommend to make it a deterrent. I know at least internally, the sound of $250 to some of our employees didn't seem like it was a heck of a lot to make somebody think twice about, doing something potentially improper. So anyway, as far as definitions are concerned, I'm reading kind of in here now, but we thought about all the different ways that someone could potentially be using water where they didn't have permission to do so. We tried to capture that into this. So we mentioned drawing it from a public fire hydrant or a spigot somewhere out in town, the use of unmetered water at a public or private property. What this bullet really is when you have contractors that are rehabbing houses and things like that, the water might be off as far as we're concerned. This would be one of those instances where, we go out to do a site inspection or something like that and come to find out that we don't have an account or the meter set up, but the water is on. So we wanted to make sure that we noted that in this, especially with the amount of development that's going on. This third bullet here, so an alteration of the dwelling's plumbing to basically bypass the meter. We wanted to make sure that that was in there. We also kind of teed off on that with an illegal connection. This is more a little bit forward thinking and could be subject to change depending on what happens with the moratorium. But for instance, some of those old grandfathered historical accounts that do have their own separate water service for irrigation, this would be in the event that someone would tap off that irrigation line and run their washer and dryer, their dishwasher, things like that. And then anything related to, an irrigation line that ends up backfeeding into something that should have been charged with sewer right now. Then the last bullet in this is something literally we just kind of adapted from the law, but this is just the intentional injury or interference to either the meter or the outside reading device. So essentially, God forbid somebody physically damages the apparatus that's inside or outside the home. We wanted to make sure that that was covered in this too. So before I kind of go on, I guess I'll just throw it out there for conversation's sake. If any of this initial thoughts, do you think we're close here? Did we miss anything that we need to go back and reconsider at this time?
I definitely think some of those fines should be a little higher to deter people away from stealing.
So that's
Yeah,
something.
I agree.
I agree
Okay.
too.
So I guess with that being said, we'll jump into the next part. So there's section of relevant law, and that will be included in this. It's not at the bottom of this document, but I'll send this to you to review, and I'll include it verbatim. It's basically just a paragraph that essentially says the same thing that we're trying to say here. With the differences, the fine through the general law is $1,000 per incident or triple damages, whichever is greater. That's how the law sets it out. So the first bullet here is basically taking what already exists and saying, do we want to update that? Are we comfortable at 250, 500, what that previous document says? We don't need to make a decision today, but something that we want to think about is, what constitutes a number or some sort of threshold there that would, be a deterrent. Secondary to that, so we referenced that any costs incurred. So if we have to go out and spend labor and materials and things like this to correct some sort of violation, we want to make sure that that's recaptured also. In the event that we go out and do that, and we find out that there was a discrepancy in the bill and we have to adjust it, obviously we'll do that, right? We hope that the meter is in such a state where we can get in and physically read it. There may be an instance somewhere down the road where it's damaged to the point that we can't read it. So one of the things that we want to consider is, should a water meter in a home be damaged to the point where you can't get a read off of it? Should there be, or how should we equate, whatever we might need to utilize to reconcile the account? We've seen different examples kind of all over the place. One example that we saw, if the read can't be taken off the meter because it was physically damaged, there's just a blanket 10,100 cubic feet charge that was assessed, for that party. There's some other stuff that's pretty consistent with what we do with a lot of our water rate work, where you could take the American Water Works average over the time period and compute it that way. We also thought that you could, if you have the availability through the data, you could also use the property's historical average. So again, just something to think about. As you know, some time goes in and we kind of chew on this a little bit. And then lastly in this, we wanted to put in there, so knowing that irrigation and anything in the future that might come up that might be advantageous to try to save the ratepayer a little bit of money. If indeed, you know, something comes out, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but should we go down a road that nobody wants to go down on, and, you know, property XYZ was found to be, you know, unlawfully taking water, we want to put it right out there that the ability to get any, you know, non-essential programming that we might offer, whether that is a deduct meter in the future, whether it's certain, you know, other program that may exist that we haven't identified yet. We want to make it so that that right is permanently forfeited for the life of owning the account. And then we took this off in the last one, just that the town of Wakefield, likely it would be the town council, based on Public Works and the advisory board's recommendation, just reserves the right to prosecute any persons in violation. I don't know if anything's ever gotten to that because it's such an infrequent thing. It's something that we want to just put out there so nobody can say that they weren't aware that that might happen. So no, that was a total mouthful, but we'd be more than happy to answer any questions or walk through anything. Like I said before, if you think we're, you know, kind of on the right track, pointing in the right direction, if you think something might not make sense, please let us know. We'll try to rework this to make it, you know, the best that it can be or the easiest to read for the board. Sometimes I know I'm definitely guilty of it. I use jargon from time to time because I think I'm talking at work when someone on the other end might not understand exactly what we're saying. So it's good to sound everything off of you folks so we can kind of get that other perspective.
Joe, I have a couple of initial thoughts. One is where you say, where you have the list where it starts with draws water from a public fire hydrant or spigot. I would even add to that, or maybe make it a separate bullet, you know, or operates a fire hydrant without proper authorization or something like that. Because if you went out to a job site, like a construction site, and you see someone turning the cap on a hydrant, a contractor, you know, with the intention of getting water from it, even if they haven't taken a drop of water, I still think they should be fined for tampering.
So I'm just going to type some notes as we go through this, and then put our heads together and try to wordsmith that into this with it. But yeah, no, that 100% makes sense. And,
Yeah, because I wouldn't want someone saying to one of your guys like, well, I didn't take any water, so you can't, you know, can't charge me.
Yeah, I mean, all the signs point to it though, right? You have the hydrant wrench out, it's on the, you know, the valve itself, and you know, okay, so we haven't started to turn it yet, but if I walked away, what would have happened? One of those types, yeah.
Yeah.
And then another question is, do we already have a fine elsewhere for somebody? I assume the curb stops, contractors shouldn't be touching those, right?
No, we would like them not to touch that. I don't have any record of any fine for touching that instead of us. So
because I wouldn't necessarily need to be a tampering fee, but sometimes, like you were saying, you get to a site and the water's on and it shouldn't have been on. Maybe there's no meter in the house. Maybe the meter's been pulled because it was a demo. And then you come out and you find that the curb stop's been turned on. I feel like that should be somehow like subject to a fine, but maybe I don't know if that should be the same level of fine or not.
So I guess I have, from my standpoint, and I don't know the correct answer at this time, I have two potential avenues that could go. It probably makes 100% sense to include it in this, right? Because if you think about it, it's in kind with operating the hydrant. If not, the other avenue to that too is, I don't know if that could be part of some of the rate setting process when we put that together. procedurally, I just want to get a better understanding for that. If I get an inkling one way or another where it could exist here, then it probably makes sense for it to be in here. I just need to verify that, but I think you're spot on.
Okay. And then my only other thought was where you said about being billed back charges should consumption be found incalculable. I think maybe there should be kind of an intermediary step there. Like, you're billed the back charges. If you can calculate accurately with like, if you can see what the meter should have read or something, then obviously that's what you're charging. But then I think the next step from there should be like using industry standards to make a best estimate. And then it should only really default to a set amount. I'm not even sure it should ever default to a set amount. I think it might be better to give yourself the flexibility that you can use industry standards and, best available information to estimate. Because what if it's like some commercial entity who is, tampered with their meter or used a bypass? Maybe they have a bypass for when there's supposed to be backflow testing or something and they're running water through the bypass. You don't want to tie your hands where you can only charge them what would be more like a residential usage.
So, just talking that through, you're saying essentially it attempts to use the data on hand first. And should you not be able to do that, then you default to like the AWWA, something like that.
Yeah, or the AWWA, or you just reference, best available information to generate an estimate, including the use of industry standard, industry standard information or whatever. And then, or maybe even reference AWWA in parentheses. And then you kind of have like the flexibility to come up with the estimate that you actually think accurately reflects the situation. It just seems like there's so many different ways that someone could potentially steal water that it's hard to like
Yeah,
put one
and
specific parameter on it.
is you try to make it very black and white, but unfortunately it's a tangled web and there is a lot of gray in it, I feel like sometimes. So
Yeah, and I just want to make sure you're giving yourself maximum flexibility. Did we lose Chris again?
Nope, I'm back. I'm here.
I know it's on the bottom.
I'm back on my computer. Much easier.
Okay.
There we go.
Your square was gone from my screen, so I was worried we lost you again.
Voted out on Hollywood Square, Chris.
No, I agree with a lot of this, some of the comments here too.
So let me pose a question. So it sounded like, at least initially, first reaction was that consensus or almost consensus was that the 20-year-old fine, right, was something that probably needs to be looked at. So moving forward, what type of information does the board think would be beneficial to get a little bit more comfortable with what that number may or may not should be, to make the best informed decision that we can?
Can you find out what a few other communities are doing?
So we'll ultimately
Say that.
probably end up doing that. We'll try to canvas, at least in 128, if not 495. I think what Ann and I will probably end up doing is try to take communities similar size, and then we'll try to focus on people that are in the MWRA. Although there are a few outside of it, I think that relate very close to us. I know, like, if you look at Danvers on paper to Wakefield on paper, it's pretty striking the similarities that we have. So we'll probably get in touch with them. I didn't know if there's anything else other than that, kind of developing that range that we might want to see when we end up talking about this next time. You don't have to tell us now. Obviously, I put you on the spot, but if you think of it, don't feel shy to just shoot off a message to Ann or I, and then we'll just start seeing what we can dig up. And that way, at least we have something to review. What I hate to do is shoot an arrow into a dark room and, be arbitrarily skewed one way or the other, or we could, get something a little bit, to be able to point us in at least an operative range, I guess that's what's out there.
I mean, definitely some type of fee that's up there that's gonna deter someone, definitely in the thousands.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing, yeah, and I think the other piece to this too is, it's been 20 years, so we may want to put something in place that might last for at least the next 10 years, right? So in 10 years from now, we want to make sure it's still,
Yeah, we can review it or change.
yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
yeah,
So that's an interesting, that's actually a really good comment, because historically, at least related to the irrigation stuff, we've always said in the end of it, that we're gonna bring this up and review it again in X amount of years. So whatever that timeline should be with this, you think about it, but it probably makes sense to include that in this. And then while we're on that, I guess it probably makes sense too, for us at least to propose some language that, should, in those in-between years, should Mass General Law change,
Yep.
maybe something that updates, that Mass General Law chapter, the latest edition. That's a very elementary way of saying that. We'll come up with a more professional language there, but something at least that says, this is the latest version of this law, or the latest update of this law is the most applicable.
yep, no, I agree with that.
Agreed.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I like the process you brought up, Elena, as well, about, kind of the tiered way of looking at it, right? So first and foremost, if we have the last meter reading and then we have the new meter reading, if there was tampering in between, it can be very, again, that is black and white, you use so much. But if there isn't, then we kind of default to other ways to figure out how much they should be charged.
Yeah, agreed there. I mean, if they use some, astronomical amount of water that costs us major money, we got to be able to protect ourselves and
Yep.
make sure they're paying for it.
Yep.
I think that is the most consistent approach. Is anytime there's been an abatement at issue, where it checks all the boxes. The advisory board now of past has always kind of defaulted to. It's strikingly, it's interesting sometimes when you start looking at the numbers, you can depict the patterns of usage and things like that. And people are a lot more predictable than you would think. But that's always kind of been the default, right? We've always looked at that to see what the tendencies were and see if we could generate a number from that makes sense. Again, instead of that arbitrary, let's come up with this for this reason. We'll try to, pick off the patterns that are related to, what had been going on there previous to the incidents or occasion at bar. So with that, I don't have anything else on this. I'm going to email this out and let this sit with you folks to kind of think about as all the holiday things are happening, and then we'll probably revisit this at the next meeting. I would say, we'll come up with something from there, but we'll come up with a little bit of language in some of the notes that we took, and then we continue on, I guess.
Sounds good.
Yeah, makes sense.
Sounds good here.
All right.
Well, with that, is that everything for policy just for tonight, Joe, for you on your end?
That is everything. Like I said, I tried to pick off all the low-hanging fruit, and then we'll save the big one for last.
Okay. New business. Anything new?
Pretty much status quo for the end of the year for us. The weather is still cooperating to some degree. But believe it or not, we're actually starting to think about next year, next fiscal year, as crazy as that sounds. We got a couple of irons in the fire. I know one of the things that's going to be coming up that we need to address is the town's fueling island and gas tanks in 2024. they're at their last year of their warranty. So we'll probably have to do something related to replacing those. Looking at an option of replacing them on site where they are at North Ave. There's another option that we're looking at, of possibly moving them off site if we have a little traffic flow, circulation, and parking. So stay tuned. Once I get a draft of that, I'll bring that back here. I'll present it to you folks to see. And then the other thing that we have going on that I'd like to get, we've been kicking the can down the road a little bit related to the cemetery. So a couple of years back, we got some money to perform some work to do. We called it a cremation garden, but for lack of a better term, it's really a section that's cremains only. You know, from a practical standpoint, it's an efficient use of space. You can fit, you know, a lot of memorials into a tighter area. And for someone that might want to choose that option, there's the possibility of it actually representing a cost savings too. We floated back and forth a couple of the different ways to fund that. I think we have a pretty good plan to this point that we're all comfortable with operationally from our side to work. What we're going to likely end up doing is estimate that as we get a little bit closer to the spring, and then make a recommendation to the town council on some ways to recoup the initial investment and actually pay it back to the town. So what we try to do is present something, and this board will see it, that, you know, I'll use a round number just to keep it simple, but if the project costs $100,000, you know, maybe we look at, you know, charging X amount, maybe, you know, we don't offer any pre-need purchasing for anything now because we don't have the space for full interment. Maybe for this, we take 30%, 50%, whatever it is of what we can put down there and offer it up as a pre-need to kind of pay the town back. Really what we're looking for, it was termed here, no pun intended, but an angel investment. So just the upfront costs so we can build what we need to build with all the proceeds up until, you know, we pay back, going right back to the town, and then everything will naturally fall back into the cemetery fund itself. But so there's some of that going on. We'll have some road work and things like that, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be too heavy as far as the town meeting for us. But time will tell.
What cemetery is that for, Joe? Is that for a specific one or in general?
Forest Glade. So if you go past when you're heading in to the left-hand side, there's the garage they kind of work out of. Just past that, there's a big flat, you know, piece of grass there that the water table there's like 5 feet. So if you go super low, you know, it's going to get kind of wet. But when we're looking at doing the cremation gardens, you know, we can fit, depending on the layout that we put, somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000. You know, plots for lack of a better term. You know, and it's something that, you know, like you said, is potentially, you know, cheaper for people that want to take that, you know, that route and different things like that. So, because at some point in time, you know, at the rate that we're going, you know, whether or not it's in my time or not, I couldn't tell you, but we'll be looking at doing some sort of expansion to the back, and it's very wet. It's, you know, borders some conservation land. It gets tricky the further out we get. So whatever we could do to kind of slow the pace of that, you know, and maybe provide an opportunity for some people that are doing, you know, some other things, or encourage them to free up some of those full burials. We want to try to see if we can do that now. That way it's there, and, you know, we don't have to get into, you know, a super crazy project out in the swamp.
Yeah, it's definitely getting tight in there. That's for sure.
It'll start to, but
I have to say the some of the snowplow names I saw online were
so if I can't say it now, but I do know a winner was picked. There were over 2,000 votes,
wow.
and the winner got over 500. I think that it'll probably end up getting announced tomorrow, but we want to let the little one that sent in the name know first. But
Joe, did you say the winner got over 500 of the 2,000 votes?
yeah, Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So it was a lot of them, when we were reading them here in the office, we either got a good laugh or they were just adorable. So it was fun. I don't think it was as, it's probably a little more elementary than what you guys may have been naming over in Melrose, Elena, but it'll be
I
pretty.
think we ended up with Sir Plows a lot, so I don't think it was any any more elementary than that.
We didn't get that, but we got some pretty good ones. So I think the staff here really got a kick out of it. So I think, as you know, if we're fortunate enough to procure these type of things in the future, we'll probably just end up continuing suit, because if anything, it puts a smile on your face with you. We're gonna put the name of it right on the truck, and it's gonna be, you know, very apparent what this thing's gonna be named. So
Nice.
at least
Well, I'll
it'll
tell
bring
you,
a
Joe,
smile.
we have we've been talking to the Northeast Metro Tech about our Sir Plows a lot, and they're gonna make some sort of a logo for it that we
Oh,
can
that's awesome.
put on a decal on the truck. So, you
Ann
know,
and I were actually talking about that. I was saying, you know, you see in places like New York City's famous for it. Every firehouse has their own kind of little logo. So, you have the town brand and things like that that I name it, but I think it'd be pretty cool for a little kid to pick a name and then all of a sudden see a little something off in the corner that kind of marks it. So
yeah. So the Voc was really excited to participate in that. So
that's
just
awesome.
thought,
Absolutely. Yeah, because if it was me, you're gonna get a stick figure or something like that.
100%.
Unless any of you are pretty good with the color palette, but that's not my forte.
Stick figures are about my
Yeah,
maximum.
buddy.
Yeah.
Same
Not
here.
here. What about next meeting? What do we think, Joe? Is it January, February?
It's up to the board. Um, End of January. I don't anticipate a lot of other business other than what we're kind of working on. Do you, Ann?
No.
And then when are the dates on the bills that are going out now?
So now we're collecting. So the next set of bills will go out the first week of January. That Friday will be cycle 1.
So we'll have some time. I mean, we could literally meet. I know the holidays get wonky, but towards the end of January, if that works.
Okay.
First week of February. Um, we don't have to commit to anything now. I guess either Ann or I can email everybody, and we'll kind of put it out there like that. Kind of, the impromptu survey type deal, and then we can go from there, because I know things get kind of fluid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at it. It's like January 22nd, a Monday, the 29th, the 5th. But we can float dates too.
Yeah,
Kind of take a poll, see what everyone.
We will default from our side of this. We'll default to, whatever the board wants to do. If you want to put a hold on a date, just tentatively, fine. We don't really have one. If anything's pressing, we'd reach out and try to see if we could do something faster anyway, but I don't foresee. I think we have everything squared away at this point.
You guys want to hold like the 29th for now, unless something comes up?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
was gonna
sounds
say that.
fine.
Yep, the 29th works for me. After the 22nd, I wouldn't be able to do, but the 29th or February 5th work for me. So I could do either of those as of now.
Okay, let's just hold those for now, and if something comes up with someone or whatever, the date needs to change, we can always change it. At least we
You
have
know-
something saved.
So
Yeah,
what, you want us to hold the 29th?
Yeah,
Okay, done. I'll pencil it in then. I'll hold the 29th.
with maybe a 5th as the backup.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
What we'll do is we'll reach out just after the new year, after everybody's back to work and the kids are in school and all that, and just kind of touch base. And if we want to formalize it at that point, we'll formalize it and post it and get it going.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
All right. Does anyone have anything else to add?
No?
No,
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn then.
I
So-
second.
All right.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Adjourned at 5:58 p.m.